Hello students. Students, in the last class, we were discussing about the administration of the Mauryas, and that was the first part of the video. In the second part today, we are going to conclude this Mauryas administration. In the last class, we discussed about the Mauryas administration, and today we are going to start the topic from where we left yesterday, and today we are going to start it from the revenue administration of the Mauryas. Before we start, let me conclude the yesterday class in 2 or 3 minutes. In yesterday class, we discussed about the Maurya's administration, how the Mahajanpads emerged from the Janpads, and Mahajanpad ultimately the Mahajanpad Magad emerged victorious among the rest of the others. And from there, the Chandragupta Maurya started his journey, and he laid the foundation of a vast empire that was known as the Maurya dynasty with the help of his able prime minister whose name was Kautilya Chanakya, also known as the Vishnugupta. And in order to give administration, something was there in the mind, and that was to give welfare to the people. That was their ultimate aim, and which reflected in the Maurya's administration at every stage. So they started their administration from the king and the council. King was the absolute ruler. King was the absolute ruler, and obviously he had council also, but he was not bound by the decision of the council, and ultimately the words of the king was the law in the Maurya's time. And there was the council also. Two councils were there: council of state and council of minister. Besides this, there was a long bureaucratic battery of the officials also, who used to get perform the orders given by the king to the council of ministers and the council of the state. So a long list of bureaucratic official was also there, started from the Samharta, Sannidhata. So that was a long list which you can get in the books also, and it's very much important from the point of view of the prelims exams which you are going to appear in the 10th of this month, day after tomorrow. So these were the important officials which we discussed in the last class. Then the empire, whole empire from east to west and north to south was a very large, a big empire, and they divided that empire into different number of zones or different number of provinces, and 5 provinces were there. Each province was headed by a particular Kumar, that was the designation, and they belonged to the royal blood. Under the Kumars were under the king himself. Under the Kumar there were the Mahamatyas, under them Sthaniks, Drodmukhs, Kartik, Gopa, and the Gramik. Gramik was the ruler of the one king, the one gram only, one village, and under the Gopa there were 10 or 20, and under Kartik there were 200 villages, 400 villages under Drodmukh, 800 under the Sthaniks, and Sthaniks were under the Mahamatyas, and the Kumar, that was the in charge of the entire province. So 5 provinces I told you people. First was the eastern, western, northern, southern, and central, and that's how they were able to give a very good administration at the provincial level. Then the most important, we can say that administration was the revenue administration, because revenue, that was the spinal cord to run each and every administration. And Kautilya himself was a graduate from the Takshila University. He himself was a great economist, diplomat, statesman. And what Kautilya observed that was the majority of the tax they were getting from the land. So land was the major source of the revenue collection, and that was 1/4 to 1/6. Whatever the product was, the people used to give 1/4 or 1/6 of the produce of the tax which they used to collect from the land, and that was known as the Bhag Kar. And besides this, there were other sources of revenue also, and Kautilya on the scientific basis divided the land according to the quality of the land, according to the fertility of the land, and they used to charge taxes accordingly also. So good land was there, middling land was also there, and the bad land or the barren land was there. So they used to collect tax according to the quality of the land. Then there was the concept of direct tax also, which they used to collect in cash. That was the 2 days salary, and which the state used to collect from the people, from the professional, a 2 days salaries per month wise. Other taxes were, one was the Bali, that was the temple tax. Then it was the Vartani, that was the traveling tax. Vanik, that was the toll tax. Vivid, that was a grazing tax. From where the cattle used to grow, that was from those fields they used to collect tax also, that was the grazing tax. Then tax on measurement goods. Measurement, just take the example, if you measure a cloth 2 meter, 3 meter, 4 meter, so per meter wise they used to collect taxes also. On the measurement, that was the tax of 6.25%. Then on the counting goods, we can count the goods also in the quantity 1, 2, 3, 4. So that was the counting quantity, and on that base they used to collect tax on the 9.28%. Then there was the tax on the weight basis. This is the weight for 10 kg, 100 kg, 200 kg, and the tax was in the form of the 5%. That was export duty was also there. That was known as the Pravesya, and import duty was also there. That was the Nishkanya. Besides this, other taxes were also there. What was the Rashtra? That was the income from the villages. Whatever the income the state used to collect from the villages in different forms, that was known as the Rashtra. Khani, that was the tax which they used to collect from the mines. Mines that we called Khan. Khan से जो tax collect करते थे, that was the Khani tax. Setu, that was from the agriculture and the horticulture. Then the bridge from the animals. Vishti, that was the forced labor. Forced labor tax was also there. By hearing the name forced labor, they were not that type of autocratic ruler who used to force the people for the forced labor. No, that was not the forced labor. The forced labor, you can take example from that. If some persons were in the custody in the jails and they were forced to give something to the state in the form of the, that was the form in the form of the vishti, and that was the forced labor for which they were not paid, because they were already the culprits and who were awarded the sentences of, and those people were forced to give the vishti, and that was the forced labor. Besides this, Utsang was there. That was the present given to the king on different occasions. The people used to give tax to gifts to the king, and that also became the source of the income of the king. Then Raju tax was also there. That was the land measurement tax known as Raju. Pranay was there. That was the tax collecting during emergency cases. That could be of the natural disaster in the form of the drought, or in the form of the floods, or in the form. So the state used to collect tax in those terms also in order to give welfare to the people. So these terms are very much important from the pilgrim's point of view. From these till Bali, Vartani, Vanik, Vivid, Rashtra, Khani, Setu, Braj, Vishti, Utsang, Raju, Pranay, and these officials' name. So these you have to cram, and these could be asked in the MCQ questions. These terms are important from the pilgrim's point of view. Then what steps they took to get more and more tax? First of all, they brought more area under the cultivation by cutting of the forest. So as we discussed that the major source of income of the Mauryans was the land tax. So they wanted to get more and more land under the cultivation, and for that they started clearing the forests and jungles and started giving employment to the people for different occupations which they used to perform on the land. So that's why they were able to get more and more land under the cultivation, and started giving employment to the people, started giving salary to them, and on that salary they started charging the tax also. So that was a major important one of the major important step that the Kautilya and Chandragupta Maurya took in order to earn more and more income in the form of the taxes. Besides this, they follow ashram system also. So what was that ashram system? In the ashram system, we discussed in the later Vedic age, there was a system in which the life of the human being was assumed of 100 years, and those 100 years were divided into 4 blocks of 25 years each. So up to from birth to 25 years, that was the age of the student life in which they had to make their career, and from 25 onwards to 50, that was the Grahast ashram in which they have to fulfill their family responsibility, and from 50 to 75, that was a preparating stage for the sannyas ashram which they had to start from the 75 years onwards. So life in that 50 to 75 years was that in which the people used to live within the four walls of the houses, but they started living a life of detachment from the family. They were not attached very much to the family because they were preparing for the next ashram, that was the sannyas ashram. So in the sannyas ashram, they were supposed to leave their houses also and started living in the forests and jungles while meditation and chanting the hymns of the Veds in order to get the salvation. That was the ultimate aim which we discussed in the in the class of the later Vedic age. So they follow the caste system, this ashram system. Besides this, they encourage the population. They encourage their people for more population so that more people could come for the agriculture and more revenue the state could get from them. Besides this, Kautilya was also conscious of one particular thing, and that was he even banned the entry of some ascetics in the city where the people would live, and it is also mentioned by an important scholar from JNU, Romila Thapar. She also says that during the time period of the Kautilya, the priests were not getting that much of weightage which they used to get in the later Vedic age, because Kautilya used to say that king should be very much cunning like a crow, and very much clever just like a fox, and brave like a lion. So these are the qualities which a king should possess. And Kautilya says that some persons who don't want to fulfill the responsibility, and in order to avoid the responsibility, they follow the path of asceticism or they follow the path of sannyas. That is completely wrong, and that type of sannyasi should not be entered into the cities, because they would encourage the other peoples to go for that path. So he banned the entry of the sannyasis or the ascetics. So these steps were taken by Kautilya in order to get more and more revenue, so that they would be able to run the administration of the state. Okay, students. Then there were other administrations also, like the judicial administration was there. Kautilya firmly believed in the phrase that justice delayed is justice denied. That's why justice should be given at very cheap rate and at the earliest also. So, and punishment was also very much severe in the time period of the Kautilya, because they used to give severe punishment in order to give lessons to the other peoples, so they would not follow the path of the crime. And the courts were divided into two parts. Two types of courts were there, just we are having today also. Civil courts were there and the criminal courts were there. In the civil courts, they were known as the Dharmasthya, and the criminal courts were called as Kantak Shodhan, and the judges known as the Pradeshta. And the punishment was very much severe. Besides this, there were courts at different levels of administration. We can take it from the provincial administration. We start from the Gramik. So there was a court at the Gramik level also, today which we call it Panchayat in our present time. Then there was the court at the Gopa level, where 10 to 20 villages were under one Gopa. There was a court of Gopa level. Then there was a court at the Khardik level, Dronmukh level, Sthanik level, Mamatyas level, Kumar level, and ultimately at the king level also. So different courts were there in order to give justice, a good justice, a cheap justice, a quick justice. So that's why there were different type of courts at the different level of administration. So that was the judicial administration. Besides this, another important administration was the city administration. Military administration is also there, that we are going to discuss. So in the city administration, what happened? From here, what we have seen that it was the Gramik village level, Gopa village level, Hartwik village level. 200 villages were under this particular designated official, 400 villages under here, 800 villages were under here. So that was the administration at the rural and the village level. So what about the administration of the city level, at the city or the urban areas? So in order to administer the urban areas, there was a council of 30 members that was divided into 6 boards, and in every board there were 5 members, and they used to give administration at different levels. So first board, out of the 6 boards, the first board was the Board of Industry and Handicraft. 5 officials were designated from this particular first board, that was the Board of Industries and Handicrafts, and their job of those 5 officials was to see whether the persons who involved in industries and handicraft occupation, they must have the hassle-free, obstacle-free supply of the raw material, so they would be able to convert that raw material into the manufactured goods. Second was the Board of Foreigners. Foreigners board that was mentioned in the Megasthenes Indica also. This Kautilya and this Chandragupta Maurya, they were very much conscious about giving a good treatment to the foreigners also, and for the welfare of the foreigners also, they started a board, that was the second board, known for the Foreigners Board in the city administration. Third was the Board of Census, in which they used to prepare and maintain the records of the birth and record of the deaths. So that's why they must have a record of the population of the period. If they have to start some project, they must know what are the number of the people for those who are going to start that particular project. So there was a board of census also, and this census we are also having in our modern time, that was started in the British period. Then there was the board of weights and measure. The job of this particular board was to check whether the small businessmen or the traders they should not follow some wrong and the cheating practices for the consumers and the customers, and they should take that much of money of which they are giving the exact amount of the weight of what they were selling to the consumers and the purchasers. So weights and measures we are also having the weights and measures today in our time also. And just take the example, if a person has to purchase a goods of 5 kg, so there the 5 kg must be indicated on that particular on that particular weight. So that type of the job there was done by the weights and measure department for the welfare of the consumer and for the consumer and the customers. Fifth was the board of manufacturing good. This board of manufacturing good was just like present day when we go to the market to purchase some products. There are the dates indicated on the date of manufacturing and date of expiry. So that board was just like that, not to mix the new goods with the old goods. So in order to look after that, there was board that was the manufactured goods box. Last was the board of taxation, to look whether those officials who involved in collection of the taxation should pay the taxation to the royal treasury, and persons should also pay their taxes regularly without any corruption or without any bribery. So that was the job of this taxation also. And this was the city administration. That was the committee of 30 members. 6 boards were there, and every board had 5 members. So that was the city administration which they used to follow in the urban areas, and that was the administration which they used to follow in the rural area. Besides this, there was the military administration also. That was also on this pattern. 6 boards were there, 30 members there, and 5 committees were there. That was first was the board of the infantry, second was the board of the cavalry, board of elephantry, board of navy, and board of supply department. The job of the supply department was to supply the goods, medicines during the time period of the war in the battlefield. So board of infantry was what? That is to look after about the welfare of the soldiers, and similarly there was the board of the cavalry also, and chariots also, and elephantry also. So that was the board of the military administration. So till now we have discussed the different administration. One was the king and the council at the center level with councils of states and council of ministers. Then we have discussed the bureaucracy. Then we have discussed the city administration, military administration, judicial administration, revenue administration. Now there is one more administration was there, and that was the spy administration. And this spy administration, just like the revenue administration, is also very much important, because Kautilya used to say that these spies are the eyes and ear of the king. Because of these spies, the king used to get the information, and accordingly they used to frame their strategies in the war and in the other area of the administration. And there were 2 types of spies. One was the Sansthaak and one was the Sanchar. Sansthaak spies were those who used to settle at a particular place and watch the activities of the people and used to inform the king about them. Then Sanchar were those who used to wander from one place to another, and even sometimes dared to enter into the enemy blocks and used to get the relative important information regarding the army also, and pass on the information to the concerned persons, so that the king could make this strategy in the wars also. So Kautilya was very much depended on, you can say that, or used to say, and it was much more rely on this board. That was this particular was the spy board. Besides this, Kautilya followed the game of the double spies. That is he appointed spies on spies. So that was the spy administration of the Kautilya. That was the administration that they followed during the time period of the Chandragupta Maurya. And this Chandragupta Maurya, followed by his son, whose name was Bindusar, And Bindusar also followed the administration almost same in the same way that was founded by Chandragupta Maurya, and that's why only two revolts took place in the time period of Bindusar. One to suppress the one he sent Ashok, and to suppress the other he sent his another son whose name was Sushena. So more or less his period was a peaceful period because he followed the the administration of Chandragupta Maurya. After that we have to discuss the administration that was given by Ashok. And Ashoka is known as the Ashoka the Great in history. Rather, it was Chandragupta Maurya who was the founder, but he couldn't get the title of great. That great title was we give to the Ashok. Why we give to the Ashok? Because Ashok followed some liberal policies in his administration. And a very important turning point was there in the life of Ashoka, and that was the Kalinga War. Before Kalinga War, Ashoka was very much violent and known as Chand Ashok also, because he got killed his 99 brothers. It is also written in the different sources of the Mauryan dynasty. So he was known as the Chand Ashok also, but this Kalinga War brought such a change in Ashoka life that he completely changed, and he changed his policy. His policy before the Kalinga was of the Digvijay, and after that Kalinga, he changed his policy from Digvijay to Dhamma and now he become a completely changed and religious person. And even some scholars says that pacifism in the policy of Ashoka was responsible for the downfall of the was one of the major causes of the downfall of the Mauryas also, because Ashoka followed the policy of non-violence, and that was not acceptable to his forces also. But other scholars try to refute this statement by saying that he didn't reduce the number of the forces, so we can't say that the non-violence of Ashoka was responsible for the cause of the downfall of the Mauryas. But anyhow, Ashoka was able to give a very good administration to his people, and he was very much close to his people, and the people very much close to Ashoka. He gave the policy of the parental theory and used to say that a king should treat his people like his own children, and that was the parental theory of Ashoka. He did lots of work for the welfare of the people, like the digging of wells, then planting of the shady trees on both sides of the road. He even ordered in the royal kitchen not to slaughter particular animals and birds on particular days. He followed complete non-violence policy, and his policy that he changed from the Digvijay to Dhamma Vijay, because Ashoka was of the view that a true conqueror is not that who has conquered the entire world. Rather, a true conqueror is that who has conquered oneself. If you are able to conquer your heart and your mind and your ego, then you will be a real warrior. So that was the policy of Ashoka. That is after that which he started particularly after the Kalinga War, made him very much great, and we call Ashoka as Ashoka the Great. Doesn't matter, the founder was Chandragupta Maurya. So student, it was the brief description of the Maurya's administration which we have discussed from the very beginning, how the Mahajanpads converted, how the Mahajanpads used that particular shape of the Mahajanpads from the Janpads from 1500 BC to 600 BC, and how after that Chandragupta Maurya, the time period was from 321 BC to 185 BC, how he was responsible in giving a very good administration to his people. That was followed by Bindusar, and that was followed by Ashoka also. So in the preliminary examination, you should people go for the terms, and the important terms from this administration are that of the bureaucracy, that of the revenue department, and these of the provincial administration. So I think that if you go by the term and the concepts are also clear to you, so you will be able to get more and more questions from this topic also. In the next classes, we will discuss the topics from the mains point of view from 10th onwards. Okay.